Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale of What We Do in the Shadows, Ancestry. And this was a really good episode. I would put it on par with the trial episode. Now granted, there weren't as many jokes that really paid off, kind of like how it was set up in that episode, but this, with what they had and what they were doing and kind of setting up for where we could go for the second season, it just really cements that I love this show, and I'm really glad I got into it, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. So we start off, and we see that Guillermo is kind of ruminating on what it means to be a familiar, and how he's always wanted to be a vampire, and all the shit he deals with, as he's cleaning up blood and everything, how he's accidentally killed two vampires and all that, and how he's sawing up body parts and everything, that he used to work at Panera Bread, and that if he'd stayed there, he'd probably have health insurance and friends, and could boss people around, and just seeing that kind of unease he has with being a familiar now, whereas he was really excited for it to be a familiar in the beginning, is nice character development, because he thought he would be like Armand at this point, and he's not happy about that. So, we get into the meat of the episode. We see that he goes out and he gets the mail. He's like, Master, there's an envelope here. And we get a funny gag as he's trying to put it in. And he's like, I can't read it in my coffin, even though Nandor wanted it in his coffin. So they open up the coffin and he's like, hey, it's a DNA test. I sent it off and did all this stuff. He's like, what, did these witches get my semen or whatnot? And that was a nice little joke that was going through, that evidently these witches used his semen in a ritual that didn't go well, and it just resulted in semen being everywhere. But that's not the last we hear of that. So they go through and we see that Nandor has over 200,000 living descendants. And he goes into his whole spiel of how before he was a vampire he had 37 wives, and then when he started to change, his wives really didn't like that. Now granted, he doesn't really put it on one group or the other. It's just like, hey, it was kind of happening, and I loved at least 35 of them, and it's like, oh god, what happened with them? And that, he's like kind of surprised. He did try and keep in contact with the kids, which is an interesting development. I like seeing Nandor's darker impulses usually get the better of him, but there are elements of him being, or at least attempting to be good, where he was trying to stay in contact with his kids and then just kind of let it be. But he's like, wow, I got a lot of grandkids and everything. I'm a grandpapa. And he's like, yeah, you're like a great times 30 grandfather. And we actually have one of your descendants living close by on Staten Island, Madeline. And he's excited to go and see her. And we then see that Guillermo has done this DNA test for everybody else in the house as well. Everybody's gotten into the library, and of course Nadja talks about how evidently witches are obsessed with semen, and I hope to God we get something with that, because that is just too funny of a thing to just have it lie there. So I hope in like the second season we do get witches involved at some point, and either like, we don't do that. That's just a crazy ass sect that's really into semen for some reason. Or anything. I'm just like, okay. I'm waiting for the payoff on that eventually. Because they're like, what? Did these witches get our semen and all that? It's like, no, alright. So, Nadja doesn't want to look at hers. Laszlo's like, fuck that. Colin's like, oh yeah, thank you. And we get into his thing, and it says that he's 100% white, and Guillermo's like, that can't be right. And we look and it says, oh wow, it does. Interesting. So Nandor, of course, wants Guillermo to go in through his, and he's about to like tell him all that, but of course Nandor steals the thunder, says about the 200,000, and that he's got one living close by, and then of course Colin's got a shit on his brain, like, yeah, Genghis Khan's got like 16 million. What you gonna do? I just love Colin knows exactly when to come in and rain on that parade. And Guillermo did it for himself, and he goes through, and this is like the funniest but also most important character development wise of what happens. He goes through, he sees the usual kind of typical stuff, and then we find out that he's got like Dutch and all that, and he goes in and he sees Van Helsing, and he's kind of freaking out. He's like, vampire hunter dude? He wasn't a real dude, right? Right? Oh god, my stomach's feeling weird. What did I eat? Garlic. And you see the wheels turning in his head. He's like, there aren't vampire hunters. He's like, I like vampires, and seeing him try to reconcile this is like, holy shit, but that kind of starts making sense of certain things. Like, it's almost like he's supernaturally predisposed to taking out vampires. It's like, we'll have to see how that goes. So we see that Nandor, Colin, and Guillermo go to see Madeline and all that, and I'm thinking, okay, how's this gonna work? Probably old person. But we see that Nandor brought a little teddy bear and everything. He goes up, flies up to the window, and Guillermo and Colin are telling him not to tap on the glass because, of course, his descendant is a 94-year-old woman, and he, like, gets and taps everything. She freaks out, and she dies. And he's, like, feeling really bad about it. He's like, Guillermo, what am I feeling? Grief, master. Like, damn it. And then he flies off the building and leaves Colin up there. He pretty much says that Colin and Guillermo are goading him into doing it. He's just seeing their interactions. Colin's like, if by telling you in no uncertain terms to not tap on the glass, then yes, I goaded you. Thank you for accepting it. Like, damn it, Nandor. And while this is going on, we get more movement on the Jeff Sir Gregor front. We see Nadja kind of reminiscing and everything. With like drawings and all that, singing a song about Sir Gregor. And then one of the coolest aspects of this episode, which I really like and really did a different kind of thing with Sir Gregor's thing, is we then switch and we see a feed camera in a psychiatric hospital. And we see that all the song that Nadja's singing is reaching Jeff/Sir Gregor. And he freaks the hell out, rips himself out of a chair, kills an orderly, like breaks their neck, takes their shoes and their keys, and runs out. And it keeps switching between all these things with the camera. And, of course, let's get this out of the way so that way it gets in there and lines up with the story later. We see him running from the police camera, and I just love the shifting of the cameras and what's going on. We see these teens doing this, like, Instagram thing, and he crashes the car, comes out, and I was thinking, oh god, he decapitated himself. But not yet. He got flung from the car, and he's just like, fine. He grabs a motorcycle and buzzes it off, and then, of course, he gets back into the main throughput of the storylines. We see that Nandor wants to go to the funeral for Madeline, and that Guillermo did arrange it so that way the funeral would be at night, and he did that by calling in a fake bomb scare. I'm like, you do so much fucking work for this dude. You don't get paid. God damn, bro. And, of course, Nadja and Laszlo don't want to go in because it's in a church. Colin's like, yeah, I can go in. I'm fine with that. And Nandor is able to get the rest of them in there, and it's nuts. They're going in, they're crying blood, and they're hurt and all that. Nadja's talking about how the blood's making her mascara run, and just seeing him kind of freak out. Laszlo's like, I can't take this, and goes out. And Nadja's like, I'm sorry, I can't take this either. I'm on fire now. And she goes out as well, but Nandor does thank them. I like that he might be an asshole in how he asks for certain things sometimes, but he does appreciate people when they do stuff for him. Now, granted, does that balance out all the shit that he gives? We will have to see. We then see that Colin's like, I'm kind of bored with this myself. I'm just gonna go like watch TV and shit. I'm like, wow, okay. He screws off, and then Nandor starts getting on fire as well. And he's like, yo, give me some water and everything. Now, Nandor is pissed off about this later and trying to call him out for it. But the thing is, he asks for water in a church. What do you think would be the most readily available source of water in a church? Holy water. I mean, and there's holy water right there. I mean, he kind of doesn't want his master to burn up, and he just throws it on him. It does put him out, but it burns him. He's like, you put holy water on me, and he's pissed off about it. It's like, sweet Jesus, man. What do you want him to do? I mean, granted, he would have had to have carried a jug of water in there for you. to do that. And we don't know if, since it was on consecrated ground, if it would technically start to become holy water in the process of pouring it on you. So that's pretty funny. So they kind of get done with that. Nandor's done with it. He does hear the priest talking about if the family wants to say anything, but he's like kind of burning and screwed up right now and kind of leaves, not saying that. It was like nice to kind of do that. And then we finish out what's going on with Jeff and Sir Gregor before we move to the final bit with Nandor and Guillermo. So we see that Laszlo had been doing something for Nadja. This is important to set up, and that Guillermo went to get garden stakes for him. He's like, why the hell would you do that? Yelling at him and being pissed off at that, and tells him to tie this line around the tree, and he does that. Now that was earlier in the episode, but that's important for what comes on now. We see that Jeff comes up. We see that Nadja and Laszlo had pretty much went to sleep, but Nadja hears him. She's like, oh, that's all right. She's like, my husband's here. And he's like, what? Okay. And then, of course, Laszlo pops up, and we find out that Laszlo has been behind every beheading of Sir Gregor in all of his lives. I like that twist. I'm like, yeah. I mean, granted, they're kind of a screwed up couple, but they work very well together. And it's like, damn, you've been killing this dude all the time. He's like, okay, cool. And he decides to back off. Nadja is able to talk Laszlo down and let him go. And he's like, hey, maybe I'll see you in the next life. And Laszlo's like, I'll fucking kill you, man. And he's like, fine, whatever, cool. And then he buzzes off. Well, he's about to buzz off. And he gets his head chopped off by the wire. And, of course, Nadja's like, did you plan it? He's like, no, that was kind of just coincidence. She, of course, says goodbye. And the setup of him losing his head was just great. I'm like, very well done, very well executed. All right, we see that the thing that Laszlo was making was a sculpture, a plant sculpture of Nadja, and it looked pretty cool. I was like, that's a pretty nice and thoughtful gift. That's really awesome. So we end off the episode, and we see that Nandor and Guillermo are talking, and that they're having a nice little moment before he goes, and he says, you're getting a merit in one more year of being a familiar. And we see that Guillermo is not happy about that. He's really pissed off about that, but still lets him go to sleep. And we see that he's taken the stakes, and he picks up 3. And he's going to return them because that's what Laszlo said to do. And you can see he's thinking, I could kill all these vampires. But then he kind of freaks out and tosses them. And what do? They all pretty much magically find Nandor's portrait and Laszlo and Nadja's portrait, and Guillermo looks freaked out. It's like, we will have to see how this works out. Guillermo could accidentally kill these 3 guys, these 3 vampires, which would kind of suck because I love watching them work around, but it's interesting seeing that there are some supernatural elements even associated with the vampire hunter's lineage, and I don't know what Guillermo's going to do. There is going to be a push-shove thing going on between him and Nandor. Either he's going to embrace his vampire hunting skills, which, I mean, he's accidentally killed 2 already, or he's going to find another way to become a vampire and try and disregard those skills as powerfully as possible. I don't know, and I'm excited to see where this goes. This has just been a great show that I've been watching, and I just love how they've been able to do great humor without beating the joke to death, and having great character moments like seeing Nadja and Gregor and Laszlo's relationship, and Nandor and Guillermo's relationship, and Colin just doing his own thing. I love these characters, and I can't wait to see where they go in the next season. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.